Girl,
this?
it's Sharonda.
Oh, what's up, girl?
Girl, what are you doing right now? What are you doing right now?
I'm doing nothing. I'm watching I'm in My Bag.
Oh, word? Is that a podcast too?
Yeah, they got it on Apple Music too. You can listen to it as a podcast.
Where else they got it?
They have it on Anchor as well.
Girl, what? Oh my god, that's
Alright.
dope. I'm about to go listen to it.
Talk to you later.
Okay, bye.
I would like to introduce you to Alex. He's a 21-year-old A&R at Legion. It's a record company label in California. He's also still in his last year in college. He's living his dream job before even graduating. Let's learn more about him now.
So when and why did you start working in music?
I started working music in the fall semester of my sophomore year, 2018. Yeah, 2018 in the fall. A friend of mine asked me to manage him, and I just said, sure. And then from that moving on, I just pretty much was in music, trying to learn about, trying to get into the industry and level up and advance in that field, pretty much, yeah.
So what was your major during your sophomore year?
It was and still is political science. Doesn't really make sense, but it's just, yeah.
So, okay, so you got into music because your friend had asked you to do it. So what was that like? How did you pivot your way through?
Honestly, like, I didn't know what I was doing at all. Like, he asked me, I'm a huge music fan. He knew that. So I just said, I'll try to learn it. And I started, and then he ended up firing me. And then that pretty much, and from when he fired me, I think when he fired me, that's when like I really started my career in music, because when he fired me, it forced me to really learn the business and really learn how the game goes and try to really study and really learn, try to learn a lot more. So it's pretty much, him firing me was pretty much the start of everything for me.
So how did you begin working at Legion?
That Legion story is like, it's sort of long, but basically one of the artists on there, Nisha Charles, she wrote a song with Chris Brown in 2017 called "Pull Up" on his Heartbreak on a Full Moon album. And when I heard it, I was like, "There's no way Chris Brown wrote this song. It just didn't sound like Chris Brown at all." So I looked up the song credits and I found Nisha on there. I followed Nisha on Instagram. From following Nisha, I followed her manager Christian, and Christian runs Legion. So I'd followed all three of them. I was following them for a couple months, I think. Yeah, probably a couple years actually. And then in the summer of 2019, yeah, in the summer, they posted they were looking for interns, and it said LA-based interns only. And I'm from DC. I didn't care. I was literally in summer school at the time. I dropped out of summer school and flew to LA for an interview. And I didn't tell him. I didn't tell my boss now. I didn't tell him. I didn't tell anybody. Like, my parents were not very fond of my idea, but I didn't care. I pretty much just flew out there and then interviewed with him, and he liked me. And then a couple months later, he texted me back saying, "Yeah, I want you to join the team." And then that's what I got on Legion.
So you said you dropped out of summer school?
Yeah, like I literally dropped two classes or so. Yeah, it was two. I was literally, there's a picture of me. I was literally in class when I saw the post, and like I'm looking at my phone, and that day, like you see, I have a picture right, and I still have it. I literally said, "F this." I applied, and then I lied and said I was from LA. And I know I wasn't. Yeah.
So, okay. So how have you, well, actually, let me go back. So how has it been for you in school, like having a remote job and being in school?
How has it been? I think at first it was pretty hard. I think I struggled. When I started, I struggled. I won't lie. Like, I struggled because I think I sort of like, it was hard to sort of like integrate when an entire other team was on the other side of the coast. So I sort of struggled to integrate with that. But I think I sort of got my groove onto just sort of like practicing and just really trying to stay involved and stay like in contact and make sure I maintain like communication. And from that point on, I really got a lot better. I mean, when they're on the East Coast, I'm there. Like there was a week in like September, October actually, was a week. Yeah, where they were all in New York for a week, and I literally went to class and took a train, an Amtrak to New York, and then came back at like 3 a.m., went to class again, and then went back to New York. I did that for a week straight, like, I swear to God, for a week. Yeah, I was in New York. I was in class, and I would leave class early or so and go to train in New York, and then come back like 3 or 4 a.m. on the Amtrak. I really wanted to like just be involved in any way I could be. So if they're in New York, I'd be in New York.
Wow. Okay, before I ask all the questions, I want to know, so why not just drop out of school? Like
Um,
some people do.
I think I won't lie. I contemplated it twice. Actually, I contemplated it twice, like long and hard. I just didn't. I majored in political science, so my major doesn't have any direct contact to my career at all whatsoever. But I think I didn't drop out because I think my parents worked hard to help get me into college and position me to get a degree. So I felt like I'd be cheating them. I guess in a way, sort of cheating myself out of an opportunity by not finishing. So I sort of just started sticking out. Two of my friends definitely stopped. I was on the website, and two of my friends definitely stopped me from dropping out. I tried, but I have good people around me that were like, no, you can't do that. So I didn't drop out.
I'm glad to hear that. So how have you rebounded from your obstacles?
I didn't rebound too well a couple times, but I think what really helps is I rebound well from having good people around me, good friends, and having a good, like, stable support group, I guess. I think when I face adversity, every time, mainly this past fall, I had a really rough this past fall in November, but I had a lot of friends that were there to help lift me up and just not let me feel I was going through things alone. And I think I wouldn't even be able to rebound, even think about rebounding if I didn't have those friends around me. So I think that's really where like the driving force is. But the other part is just, I just hate feeling down. So I hate that feeling of being down. So it forces me to get up quick and rebound and bounce back from adversity, bounce back from problems. So pretty much how I handle adversity.
So do you have a support group in terms of like what you do, like for working in music? Like, do your parents support that?
No, they really don't. I think like, if you ask them right now, they'll tell you that I'm going to law school, and I'm telling y'all like I'm not going to law school. It's not happening. I'm not going to grad school. I'm going to music. But I think with them, that my parents are African, so with Africans, you're either a doctor, a lawyer, or an engineer. Those are the only three options. If you're not one of those things, you're a failure. So I think with them, it's just a matter of showing them that music is a legitimate career path. So I have to just pretty much keep working just to show them that. They don't support it. They don't put no money up for it. They don't. My mom came to a concert. Yeah, that was support. That was support. She came to a concert once. That was a big deal to me. She came, sat through the whole thing, gave feedback backstage. That was dope. But I mean, my parents like gung ho about me trying to do music. Nah, they're really not.
You're still pushing through though, so that's what matters.
Exactly.
So what's the best piece of advice you've ever received so far?
This wasn't told to me, but I heard it in an interview about 3 years ago, and it really stuck with me. And it was I believe it's a Winston Churchill quote, but I heard this A&R named Sycamore. He said it, and he said, success is going from failure to failure without a lack of enthusiasm and a loss of enthusiasm. And that really stuck with me. I think that's important in life, in careers, and just in life in general. You go through a lot of things and you fail and you fall and you slip, but you have to get back up and keep going. So I think him defining success as handling failure was like, it's just stuck with me. And I think it's really helped me keep my North Star when I'm dealing with problems and dealing with failures. So that's pretty much the best advice. And I guess it wasn't given to me, but I heard it and it stuck with me. I had it written down a piece of paper in my wallet at all times.
Ooh, so okay, on the failure, so what's your biggest failure or lesson learned right now?
Biggest failure? I think getting fired on my first client was definitely my biggest failure. It doesn't get much worse than that. Yeah, pretty much it. What's the second half of the question? Second half?
What have you learned from it? So I guess go more into detail about that then.
What I learned from that failure really is just that I learned two things, actually. The first part was that artist was one of my friends, my closest friends. So it meant a lot. It meant a lot to me, and a lot of friends wouldn't have said, "Hey, Alex, you're not cutting it, like, and I'm gonna fire you." A lot of friends really wouldn't have done that. And I love my friend to this day for that, because it takes a real friend to be able to tell your friend, you're not moving right, like you're not doing enough, and hold you accountable. But I think what I learned from that is that I learned that I had a really solid friend group again. But two, I learned that you gotta know what you want in life. You gotta know where you want to go. You gotta be able to handle things so you don't get stopped going to where you want to go. So my friend, he had goals, he had benchmarks he wanted to reach, and if I was in the way, even though I'm his friend now, he known me for years and years and years. Him being able to tell you, yo, like this is not it. Like that's really big. And I learned a lot about him. I learned a lot about friendship that day. It's how to be a boss. Really, I learned a lot from that. So yeah.
So would you encourage like friends to work together in terms of like artistry or business? Be honest.
I think it depends on the relationship. You know what I'm saying? I think it depends on what kind of friends you are. Like I said, this guy that's a friend of mine since we were 13. Yeah, so it's you know what I'm saying? There's so much time and we've argued so much and had some disagreements in life. Like it's not like this is gonna break us. But I think it's a matter of knowing who you're working with, knowing your friends. If you know your friends and you know that y'all personalities just don't mix, you probably shouldn't work together. Y'all might have great ideas, but if your personalities don't mix, don't try to work together. I wouldn't say avoid it, but I say definitely be a little more cautious. I think when it comes to friends, like I mentioned earlier, when it's your friend, you're a little hesitant to hold them accountable and be assertive because it's your friend. But I think that's really, I think I definitely would recommend it. I work with plenty of my friends, so I can speak for myself, but I can see why it's not for everybody for sure if you don't know your friend well.
So what's your greatest success story so far?
My greatest success story? Greatest success. It's a small one. It's a very, very small one, but like it means a lot to me and still means a lot to me. There was a girl who I wanted to work with, and someone sent me a file of hers and had no name on it. And I really wanted to find out who she was. And the person who did it would not tell me like her name, her email. He wouldn't tell me anything about her. Like I was mad for like a week. Basically, I don't know how I did it. I don't remember how I did it, but like I pretty much was running around trying to like match her voice with different people in this area. And I was like, when I finally found her, got to speak to her, I felt so relieved. I was like, yo, like you don't know how bad I've been looking for you. Like I've been imagining to find a person, not knowing their name, what they look like. All you know is the country that they're from. You know what I'm saying? And they're from a European country. So Europe's a big place. Like, you know what I'm saying? Europe's a big, and London's a big place. So the UK, sorry. So when I found her, like I felt really happy about it because that was like a big deal. I'm really passionate about her music. I really liked her. I really wanted to find her. So that meant a lot to me.
So how do A&Rs find new artists and new talent nowadays?
I mean, you know, the first was probably Instagram, social media, YouTube. I think I found a lot of my favorite artists. I'm big on like open mics. I'm really big on those. So I'll like, if I have time on the weekend, I'll go to New York or I'll go to Philadelphia and I'll go sit in open mic. I'll do that. I have no problem doing that. I like the in-person experience a lot more than just like on headphones and stuff. I think probably because I get better, more of a vibe for them when I'm in person. So I go to open mics, go a lot of playlists. I listen to everything. So I ask my friends, what do y'all like? I have a sister, she's 8. What do you like? What are you listening to? I talk to everybody, what do you like and why do you like it? So I can understand like what people like and where they're going to get their fix. That's how I do. I think I mainly frequent like Instagram hashtags. I can't give away too many of my secrets, but definitely Instagram hashtags, and definitely like there are certain people. Yeah, there's just certain people I think make good playlists, and they have like sneaky people on there I'll go find. But mainly Instagram and Twitter. Twitter threads is a big one too. Twitter threads. If you look on Twitter threads, like artists will post something, I have a bunch of people, oh, like, listen to me. I go through all those like all the time. Like I dedicate like 2 hours of my morning just to go through Twitter threads. Like that's what I do every morning. So that's how I find a lot of people.
So how important is branding on social media for artists?
it's important. I think everybody has a brand, so it's very important. But I think brands can be built. So if you don't have a brand and you're an artist and you're super young, like a brand can be built. A brand can be fabricated, can be formed, it can be created. So I think it's important, but it's not the defining factor in your career. To me, it's not.
So when you're listening to somebody, how do you figure out they're like it, or you want to like reach out to them?
For me, like it's like this feeling in like my chest. Like I just feel like right here in my chest. Like, and if I feel it, I feel like by shaking. Like I'm like, yeah, I feel that. And I think I pretty much like that's the same feeling I felt when I first heard "Friend of Mine" by Kelly Price way back when. Like, when I first heard that song, I felt that feeling. That's been the feeling I've used to like tell them when I like something since that point on. Like when I heard Kelly, I heard that song. I heard Beyonce, "Me, Myself, and I." Like that song too. When I first heard it, I had this feeling in my chest, like, "Well, what's that?" Like it feels crazy, and that's like my North Star when it comes to knowing if I like something or not. And if I'm saying if it's catchy, I'll probably keep saying it more and more. But definitely this feeling in my chest where it's like, oh, I feel this. I think they're speaking. They're passionate. They really mean what they're saying.
So it's like a gut feeling. It's not like a you don't like look for anything in terms of lyrics or anything.
I mean, lyrics play a part to that gut feeling, but I think you have to be saying it's like something content rich for me. I'm not into the very fleet. I don't want to like bash anybody, but I'm not into like the little kid stuff where it's like just sounds cool. Like I sort of want to hear something. I want to hear some words. Insight into you. I'd like to hear those kind of things. So especially with singers, lyrics are definitely a big part.
So you're looking for real music nowadays.
I think we all are.
Yay. Okay, so what industry do you think is on the verge of exploding and why?
Podcast industry. I think podcasts are like the future. I think as we see sort of seeing how music with radio coming down, I think sort of radio talks. I think podcasts are like just on the ascent. The podcast market is booming. Companies are cutting checks to help support podcasters. I think that's really where that's the next really big boom. That's really it hasn't happened yet, but like if you see it, you see it. You know the podcast industry is like primed to blow up soon. So definitely get into that if you haven't gotten into that. Get into a podcast.
So what's the importance of self-awareness / your intuitiveness? You kind of went into with your gut feeling, but in terms of your overall, like what's your take on that?
Self-awareness, you gotta know, like, I think people have to know who they are and like why they are that person. So I think to bring it back to my friend firing me, I was hurt for like a day when he fired me. But the next day I was like, honestly, you weren't really doing much. And I think so when I said that, I knew that I wasn't even really up to par. That was me being self-aware and not being like having a huge ego. Like, no, I know I'm not perfect. I'm not the best. I'm still even at A&R. I'm not the best. I haven't done a lot, but I understand the general, and I know when I'm wrong. I have no problem saying I'm wrong. So I think being self-aware that allows you so many more opportunities, and you can learn so much more if you're self-aware. With an ego and you're oblivious to yourself, you don't take information, you don't learn things, and that's really a hindrance in any career in just life. It's a problem. So you don't want that.
So how do you deal with like egoness working with artists?
I manage 2 artists, and both of them are girls. Both of them are pretty good, but I think dealing with ego is just a matter of dealing with people. I think it's not so much an artist thing per se. It's more so how do you know? Do you know that person well? If you know them well, you know what their language is, how to talk to them, and that's really how you navigate those waters. I think I grew up around women, so I tend to work with more women because I understand them a little better for me. So that's how I'm able to work with 2 female artists who are like super different, but I can talk to both of them and not like feel like I'm trying to. No, I get it. I really get it. So I think just knowing who you're working with and knowing who they are and what they believe and what they stand for, it makes it so easy to deal with their egos and you know who they are to themselves.
So going back to the podcasting, does that leave opportunity for artists, like for artists to be podcasters,
I
or?
think I think so for sure. I think honestly, I think art should get into it. I think for the most part, you see a lot of podcasts or even radio back in the day. You had a bunch of people critiquing music, doing this about saying music this, music that, giving their opinions. But it's one thing to hear an opinion from somebody who's never been in the studio and try to make a song or write a record. It's one thing to do that, but it's you take their opinions, their perspective a little differently when they're an artist. You know they did what they're talking about. They understand the process. They understand that part. That's why you see like someone like Joe Budden who's flourishing really well right now, because you might not like him, or you might hate him, but you know he's being honest, and you know he has no ulterior motive other than, I was an artist, I made music, and I want to make the best music possible, and that's where my perspective comes from. So it helps you understand who you're dealing with, rather as the other podcasts who talk about music, and it's like you're sort of just critiquing it, but like, what do you understand the complexities of music, the nuance behind the record, behind sonics? You understand that. And if you don't, I'll still listen, but I might not listen to you as much as I listen to someone like Joe Budden. I think artists, especially ones who've gotten to a high level, definitely podcasts is a big thing. Even artists who are starting off, if you got something to say, you can also a podcast, try to say it and try to get another revenue stream other than just streams. Streaming don't pay, so.
You say streams don't pay?
Streams don't pay.
Okay, okay. So for our last question, because we're running out of time, what would you say to people who want to be in your spot or be like you, in terms of like being A&R?
I think take a risk. I think the hardest part about getting into the music industry is getting in. Getting in is the hardest part. Getting that first internship, that first job, that first callback. That's like the hardest part. Once you get that, you can pretty much spring from there. But that's the hard part. I think, and to get that, like I told you, like I took a risk. I flew out. I flew on a one-way ticket. I took a one-way, and I bought my ticket the night before I left. Like it was that much of a risk where like I just did it. But to me, it was more so a calculated decision more than a risk. I wasn't too worried. I knew that if I got in front of somebody in music who knew what they're talking about and I had their attention, I knew it would work out. I was confident in that. When I left, I told my mom, I told my dad, I told all of my friends, I said, yo, if I'm in front of somebody, I can shoot my shot. I'm going to get it. Like, it wasn't a question for me. So take a risk and be confident in your risk and turn it to a decision.
Thank you so much, Alex.